Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap Fight to Win 163, headlined by Kennedy Maciel versus Diego Oliveira, and we are going to preview Fight to Win 164. As always on the show, I'm your host, Mange. I'm the co-host,
Austin.
How you doing, Austin?
I'm good, man. Glad to be back.
It's been a while. It's good to have you back.
Has been a while.
We got to catch up. We've only been catching up in the chat. The Grappling Rewind chat, and it's good to finally have you back on the show. We got some fun stuff happening this weekend. Let's kick it off with a little bit of news. There's not really any grappling news whatsoever this week, which is, nowadays not a terrible thing. There's a little bit of MMA news that I do want to talk about. Again, this show is not MMA at all, but I want to talk about it. Rodolfo Vieira had a fight in the UFC that did not go his way, and he ended up getting submitted with a head and arm choke. And everyone went, "Holy shit, that's crazy!"
Yeah, I thought it was a guillotine you got submitted with.
Yeah, sorry, it was a guillotine, but it was an arm in guilliotine, but it was a same side arm in guillotine, so it was like a head and arm guillotine. Technically, still an arm in guillotine, but
sure.
Semantics.
Yeah, if your arm is choking you too, then yeah, it is a head and arm.
Yeah,
also.
But it's fucking crazy. No one expected that. Homeboy gassed super hard and then got choked. Hope he recovers from it. Hopes works on the cardio. There's a lot of discussions about him moving weight classes. He looked, I think the technical term is bodied.
Yeah, he was huge. And I mean, pretty much at any weight class where you're cutting a ton of weight from your normal walking around weight, I don't feel like it's a huge disadvantage for grappling as much because you may have some recovery time, depending on, how much weight you cut and what federation's putting the event on, because maybe it's like minute to minute or something, but like if you're cutting a ton of weight and then rehydrating and your striking's not that great, it's like, man, that's a big hill to climb if you're just jumping into the deep end in the UFC.
Yeah. So yeah, that's his first loss professionally, first submission loss in MMA.
Yeah.
And first time an 80cc champ has been submitted in the UFC. It has a bunch of different stats. I think a submission loss was a 30-1 odds on that.
I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, of all the ways you could lose, who would pick anything other than like TKO, KO, or decision?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're thinking like a world champ's gonna get submitted.
That fight happens again, I still don't bet on a submission loss. So
I wouldn't either.
That puts it in perspective how crazy it is. If you didn't see it, Rodolfo has some honestly really great grappling at the beginning of the match, the first round and a half, and then he kind of gasses. So very interesting result this week in MMA, given that we have pretty much fuck all else for news. I figured we'd throw that in. Oh, we do have one piece of news, and then Austin, I'm going to throw it to you if you have any news.
Sure.
We have a new fight announcement for who's number one. We have Gordon Ryan taking on Roberto Jimenez. Gordon Ryan is stepping in for his brother, Nicky Ryan, who was previously going to fight Roberto Jimenez, and now the two are going to fight. I think everyone on the team thought this was a really kind of an interesting matchup in like we kind of couldn't figure out the rationale for making it. Maybe like they were not able to find another person for Gordon to fight. Maybe Roberto Jimenez is just chomping at the bit to get every big name matchup, and Gordon was like, yeah, I'll fight that guy. Like, he's been putting in the work. I'll give him a shot to take on the king, much as I don't want to call him that. So yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I'm very curious sort of how it'll go. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I thought it was a strange matchup, and my only guess at how that went down was Gordon happened to kind of like be in the room to be in the conversation for even taking the match instead of Nicky, right? Like, I don't think they considered a ton of other options before Gordon, or I can't see it going that way, because I could think just off like the top of my head, like other people who I'd rather see fill in for that fight, like I don't know, like a Rutolo brother or someone closer in size who also kind of has that same no-gi skill set that's pretty close to Jimenez's. Not necessarily like a guy who's over his weight class by maybe like 20 or 30 pounds.
Yeah, Gordon's going to be significant. Gordon's what? Yeah. All of 200 plus now?
Yeah.
I mean, and Jimenez...
I saw an interview with him where he was saying like he's 25 pounds, like roughly 25 pounds heavier than Jimenez.
Yeah.
Which I can see.
I think the match that we saw most recently from Jimenez at Who's Number One, or one of the most recent matches, was the match with Craig Jones, where Craig Jones also outsized him, and I think Gordon's bigger than Craig. Gordon has 3 or 4 wins over Craig, and Craig was able to leverage his size very quickly in a couple of minutes to heel hook Jimenez. Right. it's just a really interesting matchup to make at this point in time. I'm curious about it. Again, Jimenez, I think his only pathway potentially to victory here is his close guard back take game, like that double underhook back take game. But even then, I kind of think that Gordon Ryan has a really, really good way that he addresses that. I think we'll see him do a lot of stuff that Gary Tonin does and do those, like, I think they're called Granby rolls. Every wrestler has just screamed at their audio system, listen to the show. Those like airplane rolls where he rolls out and they prevent the back take. I think Gordon's probably a more...
I would be really surprised if it ends up in Roberto's closed guard, because that's a big position for a lot of like high level no-gi guys to avoid. Like, I don't see Gordon not pulling, and if he doesn't pull, then I can't see him engaging in a spot that would like leave him in closed guard. I mean, obviously, I don't want to take anything away from Roberto. Like, maybe he has some like tricks up the sleeve to get to that spot, but I see it being a tough path for him to victory for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the experience gap here between the two is pretty stark. Again, props to the guys taking the match for both guys.
For sure.
It is a match with a huge up and comer in Jimenez. But we've seen Jimenez play spoiler before, like that first match, his first debut black belt match at Who's Number One versus Keenan in the gi, and he upsets Keenan. And he has the ability to really punch up hard. We've seen it repeatedly, and has some great wins. I just think this is a real tough match for him, and I'll definitely be watching some footage ahead of next week's show where we're going to break this down, because I got my weeks wrong, and I told Austin to look at Who's Number One for the preview, and I don't know how a calendar works. So, do you have any other pieces for that match, or any other news, or any of your thoughts on that?
No other news. Just like one last hit on that match is that I think the leg locks, if they come into play, have historically been Jimenez's kind of Achilles heel, no pun intended. But so we'll see what he does to address those, knowing that Gordon Ryan's a really good leg blocker. Yeah,
I mean, has Gordon Ryan's most recent victories versus the 88 champion Matheus Luna, and that was via heel hook. Roberto Jimenez has a loss to Craig Jones via heel hook, Pedro Marinho, Felipe Andrew. Like, historically, that has been an area that he has kind of struggled. And even leading into the Nicky Ryan match, that was one of the things that we were touching on. And I'm still really interested to see the Nicky Ryan match. I think the parallels and skills and the strengths of Jimenez paired with the strengths of Nicky Ryan is a match I'm very, very interested in.
For sure.
So, again, this match will maybe tell us something else. So, should be fun. I don't have any other news, Austin. You got anything?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, so let's move on to our recap of Fight to Win 163. This one was headlined by Kennedy Maciel taking on Diego Pato Oliveira, and Kennedy wins that via split decision to retain the lightweight title. Austin, what do you got for takeaways on this match?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good technical exchanges. Really early in the match, Kennedy sits, and then he sweeps with like a single X, which is a pretty standard meta way to sweep somebody, just teching up from a single leg X.
Well, it was really good. Like, the entry immediately, he goes down, and then he lifts from almost the butterfly to the single leg X, and then Diego goes to start to stand, and Kennedy immediately pushes him down and then techs up off it, and then immediately starts throwing by for the pass, but Diego realizes it and immediately establishes all of his grips in kind of like a modified lapel lasso, like collar sleeve combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kennedy kind of gets into this this belly down toe hold and or a really belly down ankle lock. And then he kind of has to bail on it, and he just relentlessly keeps throwing these different like pressure passes, long range passes with riding with like the cuff grip on his leg. Diego ends up relieving a ton of pressure from this armbar after Kennedy gets like some back exposure. I know you wanted to talk about that as well.
Yeah, that was a really cool sequence.
Yeah, so he gets a little bit of back exposure after all these pass attempts, and then he eventually gets like this, I guess you would call it like 3/4 Jujigatami armbar. So where you're locking your feet over the far side of their head to start armbarring. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then
Jujigatami is like a really common judo term for the armbar. Essentially, it's the armbar that Ronda Rousey used to hit a ton, where she would slide the shin over the back of the head after the head and arm throw. But Kennedy is just over top of the face in that position as opposed to behind the neck there.
Yeah, it's like both feet are on the opposite side of the head, instead of one over the head and one going across the lap.
Right, which he eventually kind of switches so that he is in that position. And then he essentially pushes off the hand. Kennedy has the armbar, pushes off the hands, and then Diego does, every time I see it, he does the Vinny Magalhães versus Fabricio Verdum armbar submission attempt, which is where he gets on his top side shoulder and he starts levering his arm. You look, okay, his arm's going to break in half, but because his shoulder and body are are perpendicular to the mat, he's upright. And he's on his shoulder, that there's a ton of extra leverage that you can put in the shoulder. So instead of the armbar going into the elbow and exploding it, a lot of the pressure is alleviated by the shoulder. And every time I see this technique, I go, oh my God, his arm's going to break. And then I think back to ADCC Verdum versus Vinny Magalhães, where it didn't break. And then Diego does a really good job of passing out of this. I know you had some pieces as well that you want to talk about for that defense.
Yeah. So Keenan Cornelius has a really good breakdown of how that escape works on his Instagram. I think it's for him to like promote Jiu-Jitsu X or something. But it's a really cool way that he shows, like, if you can walk your way up to the elbow, like the elbow that's not being armbarred,
you can basically build a base.
Yeah, you build your base up with that far hand and then start sitting up. It relieves a ton of pressure from the shoulder, and that's what Diego does. And then he uses that to cartwheel pass to get on the other side of Kennedy, which ends up in a scramble, and he goes right back to the belly down ankle lock, which is fine. And then the match kind of ends with like a double toe hold attempt from both of them. Yeah. But that was a really cool exchange to see that pass work against somebody, or that escape work against somebody who's really high level at finishing arm bars.
One of the things that was really interesting in this match to me was there's two separate times when Kennedy gets to the back or starts to get to the back, and one of them is off of a really, really like slick movement that he kind of figures out the way Diego's going to turn and beats him in the turn. And then later in the match, Diego throws a knee bar and Kennedy is able to kind of square his hips away and immediately start taking the back in a really similar way there.
I think that's the Isaac Dodellin match.
Yeah, completely wrong on the match there. Sorry, there were 2 points in this match where essentially Kennedy in the first time sees the back, and in the second time, is that this match?
I'm not sure. It seemed like his.
No, that was the Dodellin match. Yeah, I'm wrong there. Yeah, that's my bad. I mixed those two up. What's up, guys? At 45 and 55 that go between weights, confusing me. Again. Good match. Kennedy retains the lightweight title. For some reason, I thought he had the 45 title. I don't know why. In my head, I had him having the 45 title and not the lightweight title. But he obviously still has the lightweight title, retains it in this match, and so I'm not certain because I know he's been fighting a bunch of different guys. He's fought Juni Ocasio. He fought him at 140, and Ocasio was the 35-pound champ, and like I thought Kennedy was the 45-pound champ. And I think he is both, but I could be wrong about that.
This is something both of us kind of hit on before, that sometimes because Fight to Win has so many champions, sometimes it's kind of tough to keep track.
Yeah.
Like with both Nogi and Gi.
I would love a champion
weight
list.
Classes.
Like just like awesome. A big ass black belt. I mean, all the weight classes, but just like who, and they've put it out. They used to do it about every year. They put out a big ass like list essentially of like who the champions are, and I used to curate one back in 2019. I had like a running list, but it's super hard to keep track of. But I just wish that there was like a giant like roster list essentially, and then give me the top 10 guys, or the top 5 guys even that are in the line for like fighting for that title, just because it would help me a ton. And so when I'm doing, I don't know if he's the champion at this weight class or this weight class, it would just give me a chart. I would love to see that because Fight to Win, again, we've talked about it in the past, has like the best league structure of any promotion because they have events almost every weekend, and so watching guys move up and down, and they're such an integral part into the Flow Grappling rankings. I would love to see that expanded on so that we keep better track of who the top dogs are in the divisions.
Right. So that match was at it was at 65 kilos, so that's like 143. So I'm guessing 145.
Okay. Which match?
The Kennedy match just this past weekend.
Oh, okay. Cool. Makes sense. So, I got nothing else for that match. Want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Next match, we have Rafael Formiga Barbosa defeating Johnny Souza via slam to retain the Middleweight Masters title. We have not seen a slam win in Fight to Win in a while. I know Emil and I did a show months ago where there was a blue belt slam victory, but I don't think we've seen a slam win at the black. I cannot remember the last slam victory in Fight to Win at the black belt level. Formiga's a monster. It's great to see.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. So like the slam's obviously going to get the highlight reel. It's going to be on like all of the Instagram feeds that you probably watch for jiu-jitsu. But what was really cool to me was something that happened earlier in the match, around like 7 minutes in Formiga's open guard. He had a collar and sleeve on the same side, which you don't see a ton. Well, you don't see the sweep from that position a ton. He had a huge Tomonagi. He lifts him with like 2 butterfly hooks, really turns into like 1 butterfly hook, switches to both hips, and then aerials him pretty high to get a Tomonagi sweep into side control.
Well, he does it not even doing like a Tomonagi or Yoko Tomonagi, you typically see down to the side. Formiga does it like the straight up, like what's the word? Like showboat way, where it's a straight on sweep, you elevate them completely up, and then you roll them over you, like from the almost not chest to chest, but there's no sideways angle whatsoever. It's just directly over. And then he follows him up while switching his legs. And it was just a crazy sequence. And like you said, you almost never see that from the collar and the sleeve on the same side.
Yeah. You typically see it from like a double sleeve grip with both feet starting on the hips.
Yeah.
Or maybe it started off butterfly and then you have to aerial them. But still, even then you kind of have some control over both hands, not usually collar or sleeve, which is pretty awesome to me.
Yeah. Great technical display. Later in the match, ends in Formiga's closed guard. Formiga has been is a veteran of fight to win. He's had the middleweight title for I think a couple of years. He might have lost it once. He might have gone up and lost that match, but like he has had the Masters middleweight title for at least since 2019. Like he has been the dude at this weight class and knows the fight to win rule set very well. Johnny Souza's in the guard. He lifts him up, gives him a really nice like slam, and even Johnny Souza has his face a little tucked and immediately slams, and then Souza's guard kind of opens a little bit, and then Formiga immediately passes and starts going for the arm, and then realizes like, ooh, is Souza like not here and not with it right now? And Souza's like, yeah, man, that slam kind of messed me up. I kind of got knocked out a little bit, so I'm gonna call the match.
Yeah, it looked like Formiga's forehead might have made contact with Souza's chin on the way down.
You sent me a screenshot that like I agree with you there.
I was like, was it a headbutt? I'm not sure. Like it was clearly unintentional, but I was like, it looked like he went out kind of as they slammed, which is usually like you get some after effects, right? Like you'll see the back of the head hit, then they go out. But it was like, no, as they hit the mat, his legs like kind of just drooped. So it looked like, I think it might have been his head that put him out. But still legitimate. It wasn't like it was definitely accidental or anything.
And it's part of slams. Like that's
for sure.
That's is like Ricardo Arona versus Rampage is like is the clearest example ever of like, sometimes you catch the little face on the slam, and it kind of is part of it. There was a big discussion on Reddit on like, should slams be legal or should they not be legal? And everyone that knows pro jiu-jitsu was like, yeah, they're part of pro jiu-jitsu. Like they are totally a valid strategy. And again, I think pretty much everyone on the team and me has been very vocal for loving slams for years, especially in a professional context, it's the best way to counter when someone refuses to let go of the guard. Like
I agree.
That's like a technical way to deal with that position, because you're letting, again, it's something I talk about, never let your opponent put your safety in their hands.
Absolutely.
Like it's just,
I think that's one of those things with hobbyists when they say like, oh, I don't want this rule to be a thing because they want to protect themselves, which is totally legitimate if you're a hobbyist. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at what the purest form of the sport is, you kind of have to allow more things than you don't allow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course, you don't necessarily want like small joint manipulation because you don't want to see a match stop for like someone's finger getting broken.
Also, it's like I can't train like if my fingers are broken. It's like, all right, man, like I don't want you gouging my eyes because like I need those for shit. But if you can heel hook me in the gi, maybe I should learn how to defend that. Like,
those are the sorts of things where it's like, it is a thing, is a realistic possibility that it happens to you, and it's not something cheap, right? At least not to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think slams are legitimate. But it's like probably for pros they should be legitimate. I don't think there should be like some blanket rule that like there's slams in every division. I don't want to see kids getting slammed. I don't want to see like some accountant who lives down the street white belt get slammed.
If we're serious though,
think black belt level.
I do think that like I think honestly, if you're not going to allow for slams, then I think like I've said it for years. Mm-hmm. If you lift someone above your knees, 2 points, above the waist, 3 points, chest high, if their head is above your head at any point, 5 points. Ooh. And then a reset.
it would take me some time. Ooh, and it would take me some time to think about
it's
whether I like that point system or
But I'm
not.
saying, like, it should be a scoring. If you're not going to allow for it, it should be a big score and then reset on the ground.
That's fair.
You know, like, understand, like, boom, if you want to keep it and the guy can lift you and you're not going to stop, because, like, there is a legitimate way to stop the slam. We're getting kind of off kilter here, but again, the slam argument always comes up, and if you choose, you can let go of the position and underhook the leg. Like, there are things that you can do offensively and defensively.
Yeah, it's not some unbeatable technique that, like, we can't allow for it.
Yeah, so I just think there's very legitimate applications for it. Again, it sucks to see an injury via slam. That's like, I never want to see that, but I am very happy that this showcases it as a technique that can be used effectively in a title match in a big organization like Fight to Win. Like,
you can correlate it to any submission if you think about it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to see somebody's arm get snapped because I want to see guys compete, and I want to see guys like do well, and I want everybody to keep their health intact so they can keep training. But it's like, if you don't tap, which is the mechanism to stop that from happening, that's kind of on you. The safety's not on the other person's conscience to, like, keep you safe.
I mean, I've tapped in MMA, like, sparring when, like, I fucked up and, like, I'm about to get slammed. I, like, tap and, like, guys, what? I'm like, yeah, man, you just, like, I fucked up. I shouldn't have held the guard. I didn't think you were going to be able to lift me there, and you did. You know, I remember tapping, like, if you lift me up in training and I don't feel like I can get away from you fast enough, I tap. Like, it's like, cool, I lost that. I should have, like, underhooked your leg better, and I didn't do that. Like, you know, it's a really legitimate technique, and that's why I think Fight to Win has them, and they score them, and you know, and done effectively, they can result in, you know, retaining a title. So big fan of Fight to Win. You know, hope that Johnny Souza recovers, you know, as quickly as he can, and, you know, that's again always a given. I never want to see someone get hurt, but, you know, it is always an interesting discussion, I think, and I think that they're a good thing, and that you should either have them or you should score aggressively for them, you know, in that case. So, do you have any other pieces in the match? And there was really great technical work from Fromiga. He looked great here, as he always does. His passing is on point.
The only thing I picked up from the match, there was a really cool Ezekiel from top half that eventually led to Souza fighting it off and getting his guard back, which led to the slam.
Yeah.
But if you really want to see some really cool combo passing with, like, using the Ezekiel as the grip, like tippy-toe passing through a half guard, I would say check that part out too.
Yeah, I wish the camera angle was on the other side, because I was super curious to see what Formiga's essentially the choking hand on the Ezekiel was doing, and I could only see the shoulder pressure arm for the angle that they had. I wish they had another camera angle there on, like, a side camera so I could see it, because I'm curious to see, because he was able to keep that for a long time and then tippy-toe pass, and it's a nice sequence. I just wanted to see a different angle for it because, you know, it's cool. It's a really cool thing to see, because a lot of times guys will get turned over, and Formiga was able to keep the positioning there and then not get turned over in the process.
Right.
So, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right, next match we got Pedro Marinho defeating Matheus Luna via decision. Really?
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay, so there was.
We're doing a remote show because it's the pandemic, and so we're doing that. I'm trying to talk over you. You're trying to talk over me. Eventually, we're all gonna get vaccinated. We're back to having a good time. I don't gotta edit this shit remote. But until then, we deal with this.
For sure. So there's some really good takedown exchanges, some really good stand-up stuff that ended up being scrambles and didn't end up in like scoring opportunities as far as Fight to Win rules go. Kind of towards the end, there was a really big single leg slam from Pedro that ended up in Luna's open guard, and then it ended up them kind of ending up in this like 50-50 kind of heel hook battle where Luna was attacking a straight ankle, and Pedro kind of had to give up on a heel hook to kind of address it, but
that was
not a
sort
ton of action outside of that.
That was sort of the biggest thing in the match, and I thought that Pedro, and I think the slam sweep, single leg sweep happens at about 1:04 left in the match, and then there was an earlier attempt into the legs from Pedro. I think he had a better bite on a heel hook, or was more aggressively going for the heel hook than Matthias, then countered with a straight ankle, and I would have given this to Pedro. He does end up taking the match, but the majority of the rest of the match was really, really straight up like collar tie and standing work from both guys, where they were sort of looking for an opening. Some entries to takedowns here or there, but those are the two big sequences of the match, and Marinho takes that. Again, looks good. A little less engagement, not engagement, sorry, a little less groundwork in the match than I would have liked, but very, very par for the course for what we're seeing from Marinho, and he takes out Matthias, who's a very, very good black belt. So Pedro's moving into black belt competition, very nicely. He hasn't been a black belt for more than couldn't have been 8 months, 6 months, something like that. And he's been competing in no-gi as a black belt for a while now, but looks good.
Yeah. Good match.
Next match, we have Isaac Dodellin defeating Matheus Galvao via choke, and that was submission of the night for the black belts. Austin, take it away.
Yeah, so right off the rip, I'm just going to say I don't know what – the Fight to Win commentator said this too. Like, the color of Isaac's gi was like this weird, like, tannish color, which I don't really have much to say about it other than what the hell color was his gi. It was like this weird kind of like desert tan color.
I looked at it, I was like, I want that gi. Immediately, I was like, that is a weird ass gi color. I want that. Again, I've never seen a gi color. If anyone knows anything about me in personal life or on the show, I fucking love weird colored gis.
And nothing makes me want to choke your face harder than when you wear a Santa cap during training in December.
The holiday hat. I got 2 red gis now. I have a new one.
I think it's like the epitome. That's where COVID started, probably. Yep. Was you in that hat.
Yep. The holiday hat. Every month of December, the holiday hat comes out at all waking hours. And it's a good time. Yeah, I love colored gis. I got green gis. I got red gis. I've got back to jiu-jitsu and Isaac Dodellin's fire ass gi.
So the technical end of this match, to start it off, Isaac sits immediately and he gets this he gets an omoplata pretty instantly. Galvao puts his knee on. He's able to clear the sub. But I thought that was really interesting that his guard sit was almost instantly an omoplata. That takes a ton of skill, and you could tell that's a super polished tool that he has. So I'm really interested to see where else he can develop that in the future, and where else he can implement that in the future. Well,
the funny thing is, we see a lot of guys and Isaac is in the weight class where guys are going to double pull and sit, and so it's okay, Isaac pulls and Matthias comes in, and then immediately to have Dodellin fire off is one of the reasons I really like Isaac. He's not going to sit there and he's not going to sit there and essentially bullshit you for grips for 30 minutes to get the exact. It's he's going to immediately start firing something at you and then see how you react. And I picked the same thing up, that immediately he's firing into a sub attempt to see how you react out of the sub attempt. He may not get it, but if you're kind of sleeping or you're not ready for the pace of the match he's going to throw at you, ow, just banged my arm. He's going to take that. And so that was super cool to see, to open the match, as the guy that pulls, immediately being the aggressor with submission offense from the bottom. And I went, ooh, I missed Isaac Dodellin. I like seeing him on Fight to Win for that reason.
Yeah, and then using that Omo, he was able to get on top, and they chained some really near passes together before they reset them for getting close to the edge of the mat. But I thought that was really interesting too. Everything he did, and this is kind of to piggyback off of what you said, everything he did was offensive, and it seemed like everything was a threat. None of the things he was doing were feints. It was no, if you let me have this is what I will do to you.
Yeah.
Which I super like to see which 2 or 3 techniques people pair together when they're doing passing that way, because it kind of narrows my focus for my own personal training at a really, way lower level of efficiency. But it's awesome to see he does an X pass and he does a kick pass, and then he chains that together with an over under or whatever it is that, however they combine it, is the creative side of it that I really like to see.
Yeah. Again, Isaac's a super fun guy to watch, and this is the match. Again, I keep flipping the Kennedy match and the Isaac match in my head. This is the match where Matthias gives him a little bit of back exposure on the pass, and you see Dodellin almost do that wrestling drill where you go chest to back and just spin, and he's able to follow Matthias while Matthias is turning away. The first time, he's not really able to do a ton with it. He kind of passes and maintains for a minute, but the second time when Matthias jumps for the knee bar, I know you had something for this.
Yeah.
He is able to crab ride and take the back off of this little positional change because he knows the timing and how Matthias is going to shift his hips and chest.
Yeah, it was in Isaac's close guard, and Matthias jumps to what looks like a knee bar, but Isaac's secondary leg was still in the middle. So if you imagine that you're doing a backstep knee bar or something, imagine that the other leg is kind of hooking behind your leg as well.
It kind of reminds me of the knee bar that Herber Santos does a ton. Where he rolls the guy over his own back to get the knee bar. Very, very similar knee bar. Again, it wasn't quite where Herbert does it is pretty special.
His setup is different.
His setup is different, but it ends in a similar position.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when Matthias jumps, that gave Isaac just the small enough window to start inverting into a crab ride, and then that crab ride ended up turning into a back take, and then that back take ended up turning into the gi choke that ended up getting him the win. And that was one of the slickest sequences, because it's almost oh, I gave this dude the smallest possible window off of my submission attempt. I'm sure Matheus was thinking like, okay, I'm going to attempt this because, it's fight to win. I need some attempts to start getting on the board. Like, he's already had omoplata. If you want to, I don't know if he would have scored that or not. So in his head, he has to be thinking, I have to knee bar. I have to do something against him to at least even the score on submission attempts. And then that submission attempt was just enough to give him the space to get to that crab ride.
Yeah, and I love that when Isaac took the back here, he's immediately like, wow. Again, this is one of my favorite things to watch in high-level competition is when a guy takes the back while trapping the arm with the foot. And Isaac does that here. I'm just like, God damn, because it's something that I can't routinely do versus similar skill-setted people in back taking. So when I see it, it's just like, wow, like it's so cool to see guys be able to do that and have the skill to repeatedly, like in taking the back in that transition versus high level competition in the scramble, also have the wherewithal to not only get the hook in, but also put the hook in high enough to slide it down the arm and trap the wrist and the forearm in the hand. It's just like beautiful technique. Eventually it was like a collar choke variation, right?
Yeah,
it was like that standard collar choke from the back here. But the sequence here was definitely something special, and you should go back and watch the sequence. Because I'm a fan of the knee bar that Galvao goes for, because it's dope, and B, because like the counter that Dodellin hits is it's a very common counter that we see for it, but usually guys are able to flatten out and not have their back taken. And so I'm curious to see exactly what adjustments Dodellin does, and I'm guessing he keeps his hips lower under Matheus Galvao as he's doing it in the crab ride, so that he sits him onto his back as opposed to him being able to slide off. It's a very common sequence we do, and it's cool to see Dodellin actually be able to hit it versus high level competition. Deservedly submission of the night for the black belts. Very, very nice finishing sequence.
Yep.
Anything else on that one?
I think that's all I have for that one, too.
All right. Next match we'll talk about is Max Jimenez defeating Tex Johnson via decision. I actually had this going the other way. Just given my understanding of the fight to win rule set, which is submission, offense, winning decisions and points. I can see the argument for Max Jimenez winning this. I think any other rule set, Max Jimenez wins this because he had really good takedown attempts. He had really good control on top. He was, the active person working on top. But whenever he would make a little bit of space, Tex would immediately invert on his shoulders like he does, either go to the ankle lock, either go to the heel, like try to scoop for the heel hook, or try to scoop over for the knee bar. And there was like 2-3-ish different times when Tex did this, where Jimenez, again, had really great defense, would stand up or would get his leg back, would get his leg underneath him, use his weight to, be able to force Johnson back down and stop Johnson's inversion. But overall, that was sort of what it looked like in the match. And so going into this, Tex was 13-2. He has a style for fight to win that is very, very good. And I would have given him the decision. I do totally see the argument for giving it to Jimenez, but that was sort of my takeaway. Austin, do you have anything else that you kind of want to take away from that?
Yeah, on some of the technical end, I could totally see that, and I completely agree with you. Looking at the fight to win rules, definitely, I would say it would have been way closer if you're going fight to win rules. If it were any other rule set, like you said, I think Max takes it. Max had a cool duck under where he kind of duck unders using his cross-side hand to slide the hand by, and he double legs Tex into butterfly, and the Tex inverts immediately into reverse ashi to start attacking a heel hook. So if you're looking at just that sequence, that was kind of the tail of the match, right? If you're looking at like IBJJF, Tex wouldn't have scored anything, or any advantage scoring league, right?
Yeah.
Like Tex probably wouldn't have scored anything, maybe an ad, and Max would have scored 2. So if you're looking at it from that perspective,
did he take him down once or twice? He has Max Jimenez has the first one that I can remember off my head is he did an arm drag to single leg on the outside that he pushes Johnson over with, and then did he have another? He had a double leg sequence later in the match as well.
The double was the only one that I think I remember.
So I think there were 2 different sequences.
And then getting reset because they were near the edge.
Yeah, but again,
Max has a bunch of like near passes. He's kind of like running around to his head as Tex is inverting. So like in any other league, like you were saying, those will all be ads or near pass attempts. Maybe some lower level refs might even give him a pass for some of those. So I could see why those things would score. But like you said, in fight to win rules, the submission's kind of king, and Tex had at least 2 or 3 good bites on reverse ashi, outside 50-50, and they even ended up in outside 50-50 towards the end of the match. So
right. Very close match.
Very, very close. I can see the argument either way, but given that it's fight to win, I might have given it to Tex personally.
Yeah. Again, I don't really have a huge issue with how it went. I see an argument either way. I was very pleased with the match. We have seen very few guys that are able to deal with the inversion game and the leg lock game of Tex, so it is cool. Again, I'm a big fan of both guys' games. I like what they both bring to the table. Max Jimenez, if you're less familiar with him, because we talk about him a little less on the show, more so recently. He's actually training in Maryland now. He trains out of ground control in Columbia, which is about 30 minutes from us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's still GF team.
He's still technically GF team. Yeah,
who's the owner of Foundation Jiu-Jitsu, trains with them a good bit. Jeff Mount, shout out to him.
Yep.
But yeah, Max is a really friendly guy, at least from what I understand.
I did a great interview with him prior to ADCC when he got the last invite spot for above 99.
That's awesome.
Sorry, it might have actually been before he got the invite slot, but I did an interview with him. Super nice guy. So it's cool to see him. He had a really, really nice match with Buchecha. If you haven't seen that, go watch him. He's a guy that is young and that we're going to see more and more of at the heavyweight. So it's cool. I think both these guys, this wasn't for the title, but I think...
So I was thinking about that. Oh, that's one more detail I left out. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it.
Basically, I was thinking about, why wasn't this title fight? They're close in weight. It makes sense. And I just realized Max is only 28. And I think both Texas titles are Masters Division.
Yeah. Tex has the no-gi and the gi super heavyweight Masters title.
Yep.
Oh, right. This couldn't have been a Masters fight.
Yeah, it could have been Masters because he's too young.
That's so funny. I was like, yeah, it wasn't a Masters fight. Right, because I do not know who has the title for the adult division. I know Tex competes in the adult. I mean, Tex takes matches all over the place. And I don't remember who has the title for the Masters. It's gonna kill. Is it Bautista? Is it Hulk? For ultra heavy or super heavy or whatever.
I think this would have been super heavy. I have to look.
I always forget what the heaviest IBJJF weight class is.
Ultra.
And it's just like it's literally at this point in the show, it's embarrassing that I cannot remember because everything's called heavy. There's featherweight this way, and there's heavy, and it's always super ultra giant huge big guy, absolute heavy, double heavy. It's just all these heavyweight divisions, and everyone's 100 pounds bigger than me. So I'm just like, cool, never gonna fight that guy. And so, but yeah, after 4 years of the show, I should be on that at this point. Yeah, but again, I assume that Max fights for a title very shortly here, very soon. Would not surprise me to see Tex go after another title as well. He's expressed interest in it. I think at some points he's had 3 titles for fight to win. So I think he currently has 2 titles. Wouldn't surprise me either one. Would love to see these guys, both of them, fight for a title again or fight, other folks for the title of fight to win. Both super active and very interesting games that I like watching.
For sure.
So anything else on the match?
No, I think that's it.
Want to move on to some other matches?
Let's do it.
All right. I don't have a ton of notes for these. I kind of figured we would move through them. Stop me anywhere you want to stop me. Emilio Lucas Lima defeats Sean Joseph via ankle lock.
Yeah, there's not a ton. This was a cool ankle lock if you like to see how to transition from a belly down straight ankle to a head-to-head kind of straight ankle. And what I mean by that is your heads are on opposing sides. So just like the traditional step on the, both feet stepping on the hip straight ankle. Yep. This is a really good way to see how to kind of use those two things back and forth. Emilio really readjusts his belly down to get back to the more traditional straight ankle with the feet on both hips. So this will be a good finish to watch if you're into ankle locks and leg lock stuff.
A lot of ankle lock and heel hook and lower body submissions on this card. One of the guys on the gym chat was there was a lot of below the waist submissions this week, and I was like, yeah, look at all the results and watching the matches. There was people were trying to take the feet off this week, and I was a fan.
Even the lower belts, they had some cool straight ankle lock finishes too.
There was some cool
card to watch if you're down to watch a straight ankle lock.
It was also a shorter card. I think it was only a 3.5 hour card, so it was a much shorter card. I watched some of the brown belt matches that ended in heel hooks as well, and they were cool. So last black belt match, we have Jason Bright defeating Justin Rice via choke, and that was fight of the night for the black belts.
Yeah, this is a really cool technical match, and justifiably fight of the night. So Justin pulls really early, and he gets this deep half grip with the lapel on the far side, which I'm really interested to see what other stuff he has from that set. It's not the lapel that's under the leg that's trapped. It's the lapel that's on the top side. So I'm really
it's a really uncommon way to play deep half with a lapel like that.
Yeah, that grip is really odd. So I'm really interested to see what other stuff he might have.
There's more people that are exploring it, and we have seen it more frequently in the last 18 months, probably like 12 months than we had before. But I'm curious because there's a lot of guys that have been working it, and we're starting to see it come to prominence, especially in the black belt levels.
So he has from deep half, he has this really slick, like a backdoor back take. It looks like he's going to come out backdoor and end up going leg drag. And then as he's going leg drag, Jason tries to counter by putting his weight back into him, which lets Justin rock forward. And he does this like really super dope back take. And he traps the choking sidearm with his leg, the same thing that you were like hyped on before in the Isaac match.
Yeah.
Same thing he does in this back take. And he doesn't. And what ends up happening is Jason does like an awesome job escaping, freeing his arm, escaping the bottom hook, and then it leaves Rice setting up a collar choke. So it's like this awesome back and forth technical exchange that started from like a deep half pull, or really like an X pull that ended up in deep half.
Yeah, I got kind of crushed down into the deep half.
Yeah, so it was a really good job of Rice to reset to the back control, but then also keeping good head position. But then what ends up happening is Jason grinds his way to an escape and gets back to close guard. Ends up passing with this really, really picturesque knee cut. It's probably like I don't know, like if you had like the way I look at it in my head, it's like if you had this like 1, 2, 3 poster of how to do a knee cut, that's exactly what Rice did.
Yeah.
It was freaking perfect. It looked super tight, great head positioning. He ends
really
up
good drive with the hips too. Like the hip drive here was great. He really keeps it down the entire time, and like
it was perfect.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good guys on like social media who show different ways to knee cut, but I think this is like the most standard way that a knee cut will work for most people, and he executed it perfectly. So then he passes with this knee cut into side control, and then he drops into this beautiful paper cutter choke to secure the win. And like if you started watching this match and maybe stopped watching it halfway through, you wouldn't think the result was what it was. So justifiably for me, fight of the night for sure.
Yeah. Definitely a good decision for fight of the night. So that does it for the black belt results. Moving on to the brown belt results. Austin, stop me if you got anything, but I'm going to run through them. Troy Russell defeated Dante Muschamp via heel hook. I'm going to see these guys fight for a title probably very soon as well. Thales Pointis defeated Jared Totter via leg lock. Anthony Robertson defeated Dan Dykeman via heel hook, and that was submission of the night for the brown belts. Real quick match. Dykeman had to be given up 20-plus pounds here. Looked at the significantly smaller guy. Immediately comes out fire, and Anthony is able to counter very quickly and get a really deep heel hook, and it looks like Dan kind of limped off. Dan works for fight to win. Best of luck in his recovery. Hope that he's not too, banged up after the match, but, looked really good. Props to him for taking the match. I'm assuming it was a late replacement match, given the weight disparity. The fight to win guys are always game to jump in whenever they are needed. Talis Gringlowski defeated Joshua Sutton via armbar, and that was fight of the night for the brown belts. On to the purple belt results, we have Eric Macedo defeating Dimitri Thomas via triangle, and that was fight of the night for the purple belts. We had Sidney Hall defeating Mason Roy via triangle armbar, and that was submission of the night for the purple belts. We had Matt Antler defeating Caleb Yonkers via heel hook. We had Bonin Takina defeating Alex Ryan via decision. We have Abdul Karim Al-Swahidi defeating Calix Phoenix via decision. We have Dylan Wynn defeating Mackay Castillo via decision. We have Nikki Gates defeating Scott Reed via heel hook. Again, a lot of heel hooks in the brown and the purple belts. On the purple belts. Moving on to the blue belt results, we had Eric Salvador Martinez defeating Clay Vincent via armbar. We had Tyler Ard defeating Roberto Lopez via triangle. Michael Holloway defeating Blade Weber via rear naked choke. Victor Agar defeating Michael Bryant via split decision. That was Friday night for the blue belts. We had Blake Bradshaw defeating Eric Gibbons via heel hook. We had Michael Jordan defeating Cody Creamer via rear naked choke. We had Kevin Smith defeating Mike Wolf via decision. We had Nick Colucci defeating Felix Serbert via heel hook. We had Elzar Gardolio defeating Jared Ray Allenson via heel hook. That was submission of the night for the blue belts. And we have Jeff Thompson defeating Anthony Olivas via decision. That does it for our recap of Fight to Win 163. I'm going to breathe now. Moving on.
Impressive.
After 200 episodes nearly, I'm not the name guy, but when push comes to shove and someone else is not the name guy on the show, I got to be the name guy occasionally. So, I can do it. Again, apologies to everyone whose name I absolutely just butchered. If you would like us to stop butchering your name, please shoot us a text on Instagram or on all social medias, and I will make every effort to not butcher your name in the future. That is
or just win more so we know who you are.
That's dude. That is, as much as you're making a joke, legitimately, there's been a lot of people on the show that like even like from the blue belt to the black belt level that I just have to read their names and eventually like I'll reach out like, hey, what was this sub? Or what was I'll try to get information from the grapplers and the athletes that we cover just because I am, as a fan, genuinely interested, but also I want to be able to cover them effectively. So I'll reach out and then I'll be like, hey, how do you pronounce this? Or how do you do this? What were you doing here? And then get their name in that way. And some people will just go, hey, my name's actually this. And I'm like, thank you very much. Or a lot of times it's actually folks from their gym that'll send us a message and be like, hey, that's not his name. His name is this. I was like, oh, thank you very much. And then we make every effort to go correct that when that comes on. So
For sure.
Making efforts. Share it with folks at your gym to help us pronounce their names better. So moving on to our preview of Fight to Win 164. This one is headlined by Dante Leon versus Manuel Ribamar in Austin. You pulled up some information that this is a rematch.
Let me double check. But I think they fought 2 or 3 times
you
before.
Said they fought twice. And shout out to BJJ Heroes for giving us this information. New York Pro 2017, New York Pro 2018. Only 2 times these guys have fought. I think they were both gi matches, if I recall correctly. And Manuel has taken both of them. But we're talking about 2018 and 2017 Dante Leon, new black belt at the time. It is now 3 and 4 years later, and it is a no-gi match. Dante Leon, since those matches, has become the 4th place guy, I don't know the word, victor at ADCC 2019. Has a no-gi world title on IBJJF, and I don't think is nearly the same guy that he was in 2018. Like, he is shown that he can compete against the upper echelon of guys, and now this is a no-gi match. I am super amped to see how this match plays out differently, even if it does.
Yeah, it should be a really, really good match. Just like you said, like there's a lot of matches on this main card that are rematches, or these guys have seen each other at least once or twice in the past, and this is one that I think was already really close. Like you said, in the past,
it was 2 points victories. I think one of them, Ribamar only beat him by 2 points.
Yeah, 1 point. The one in 2017 was 3-2.
Oh, crazy! 1 point. Yeah, so we have a pass versus a sweep or a takedown. I don't remember how it went. It has been at least. I probably have not rewatched that match since it happened. I might have rewatched it once when previewing one of these guys before, but that probably would not have been a match. It might have been a match. I went back and looked, but I can't recall it offhand. Dante's game and Dante in general is just tenacious. I am very curious to see if he decides to go like passing attempts or if he tries to go like to wrestle with Ribamar or go leg locks. Again, it's with Dante, I never really know where I want to think a Dante Leon match is going to go, because Dante is a guy that will have the match anywhere. Like, he is willing to, he's willing to wrestle with you. He's willing to do leg locks with you. He's willing to do takedowns with you. He's willing to play guard with you. He's just like, that's why I like the match with Gary Tonin so much, is he's just a guy that's willing to fight you wherever. Like, doesn't seem to have any qualms. He's comfortable with all phases of his game. And so, like, with that level of confidence going into this match, and this being a rematch in my interviews with Dante, like, Dante's a guy that just wants to keep getting better, and I assume he's going to look at this match in hindsight and go, yeah, I want to get that one back, you know? Yeah,
I can't imagine that match being boring, just looking at, like you said, the Dante and Gary match from ADCC. It's like, of course, he's going to push a tempo. He's going to be trying whatever it is he decides to bring to the table, whether it be leg locks, takedowns, back takes, whatever it is he's going to try to implement against Manuel. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. So, again, I hate picking against Dante Leon. Ribamar's a beast, but it's, again, there's a couple guys, and that's why my picks have gotten shittier on the show recently, because, like, I just pick, like, my list of guys I don't pick against just keeps getting longer. And right now, at least, Leon is not a guy I'm picking against. I think he's ranked number 2 or 3 in 77 on Flow Grappling. Only guy above him is Gary Tonin. They fought at ADCC and at Who's Number 1. And I'm just not going to pick anyone that's not Gary Tonin right now against Dante Leon. But that's just like the activity, the phases of his game in Nogi. Like, I'm super hot on Leon because he's just dangerous everywhere, and I just don't want to pick against him. Again, Ribamar can certainly get to the back, can certainly upset him, can certainly shut down the passing attempt of Dante. I think that Manuel will probably pull here and force Dante to pass. But I feel like Dante's going to throw up more submission offense in the fight to win rule set, especially from the passing position. And I just think that Dante's game is also tailor-made to ADCC and fight to win, just with the level of activity and pace that he pushes. And I see it being a very close match, but I see Leon taking it. I don't think anyone's going to get submitted here. Next match, another rematch. You got anything more on that match, Austin?
No, man, that was perfect.
Next match, we have Pedro Marinho taking on Oliver Taza in Nogi. This is another rematch from the Jits King. I forget which Jits King event it was. Maybe Jits King 3?
4, maybe?
Okay, 3 or 4.
Is that 4? I don't know.
When they had that big 85 bracket. We saw Marinho. Honestly, this is a fun-ass match. If you haven't seen their first match, I don't want to recap it. We recapped it on the show when that bracket. I think we spent a bunch of time on the show, on that recap show, talking about Jits King 4, talking about this particular match. Go back and watch this match. I see it playing out very, very similar. Both guys fought out of some tough spots. I want to give the edge to Pedro just because I think that he's going to implement a similar game plan. Taz is going to implement a similar game plan, and I feel like we kind of saw how those styles match up. Pedro's been more active. He has been wearing knee braces recently, which kind of concerns me versus a guy like Taza. But I see that guillotine being the guillotine being a factor here. With just given how Taza likes to come up and invert and go for the knee bars and heel hooks, I just see Marinho seeing that, getting out, trying to clear the knee line effectively, and then trying to flatten Taza down, and then go for the guillotines. And I see him passing and using that like he did in the first match.
Yeah, I can kind of see it going. Yeah, exactly. I could see it kind of going either way. I could see Pedro making this a wrestling battle where he disengages a lot and kind of goes for pass attempts.
I feel like Taza's going to pull. We know Taza's going to pull here.
For sure. So I can kind of see it going either way. If Taza can get inverted enough to get his path to an inside heel hook, I could see that going his way. But I could also see Pedro being super aware of that and kind of high stepping his way through that heel hook attempt, and then kind of staying on top long enough to get the win, edging him out for the win.
Yeah.
So I can see it going either way.
But again, in the fight to win rules, that submission offense that Taza's going to throw up, we know Taza wants your leg. And he's going to continue. He's going to enter into the legs. Unless Pedro is super disciplined and plays a super outside game, which we've seen from Marinho. We've seen him do that. But I think it's going to be really hard for Marinho to get the victory like that, because at some point he's going to engage Taza, and Taza's going to get underneath him and start to go for something. And I think we're going to have to see Pedro be more aggressive and either potentially open himself up or potentially be able to get to the neck of Taza. And so the rule set in fight to win here is very interesting. It was a very close match last time. I think it went overtime. I could be completely wrong about this. I remember it being a really fun match. I think it went to overtime last time in Jits King. And it should be another fun one. I kind of want to lean Marinho here, but again, neither one here would be very surprising. Both these guys have the ability to tactically beat each other and have the skill set to submit each other. So, very fun matchup. Anything else?
I think I'm just going to go, all parting thoughts, I think I'm going to go opposite way of you. So you brought up a good point that the heel hooks will typically score more, even though we didn't necessarily see that in the Max and Tex match that we just watched and covered. So I'm going to go Taza, but people's champ personal opinion scoring more so than fight to win scoring. It's
reasonable. Yeah, we make picks all the time. Just make your picks. Next match we got Gianni Gripple taking on Gabriel Souza. Another rematch.
Yep. They last fought each other Nogi Pans. And
what year?
2020.
Okay, so recent. Super recently.
Yep.
Gripple took that one, right?
Gripple lost on ref decision.
Oh, right. That was a super, super close match.
Yep. And they fought 2020 Europeans also, and Gabriel Souza took that one. Super close match, 6-4 on points.
So they fought Gi and Nogi recently.
Yep.
Austin, what are you going on this one?
Uh, I don't know. Fight to win rules make it, like you said, it makes it really interesting.
Grippo's a guy that tends to open up and fight to win rules, which is kind of cool. Like he has a game. We've seen him do both, kind of like play more conservative and play like more aggressively. And at both, we've seen it work out in his favor and not work out in his favor. Like he's a guy that I always have a really hard time picking in fight to win rules, just like because his game is very, very IBJJF, but he still has, between like Henzo's and Marcelo's, he still has the tool sets to submit guys, and we see him doing that when he has the opportunity. Sure. With Gabriel Souza, I just don't see, I don't see Grippo catching him, especially given how close the match are. They're two guys that know each other. Even if they open up more, I just feel like that Souza knows where Grippo is going to go and where he's going to be comfortable in, and he's beaten him recently. I don't think either one of these guys are making big changes to their game in the last, 6 months since they fought. So I kind of want to lean Souza here.
I was going to go the other way on this one too. I think Grippo, because he's so technical, and it is because it's a gi match, I think this one's going to be pretty close. And I think the fight to win rules kind of take some of the sport side out that kind of favored Souza in their first meeting at Europeans. So I think Gianni has a better chance at making the adjustment to the fight to win rules, especially seeing that he didn't get subbed in no-gi. I think that's probably a pretty good indicator because he's so technical and such a good guard player. I think he probably has a better path to victory, or clearer path to victory in my head, under the fight to win rule set.
Yeah.
That's not to say that Gabriel Souza can't also do the same thing, but I could see Gianni making that adjustment a little cleaner, a little better.
These are both guys that I really love seeing in the fight to win rule set, because they are guys that can sort of do it all. And they're definitely going to play the smaller guy game that we typically see in like all the IBJJF and World Tour and AJP events. But they will both open up and fight to win. And so if we get a match where they both open up, this could be just an outstanding technical gi match on the fight to win stage. And so I hope we get that. Should be pretty close. I do still want to lean Souza, because whenever I think a match is going to be super, super close, I always pick the guy that's won last. Although, like you said, do see a very clear avenue for Grippo making a few changes and taking away some of the sports side of things that made that such a close decision match or points match at an IBJJF. So super, super great matchmaking here. I don't have a ton more than that.
No, I think that covers it for that match.
And here's the match where fuck off for a pick. We have Wagner Hosha taking on Yuri Samos. Wagner's moving, I think, going to comfortably move up here into the 185 division with this matchup, taking on Yuri Samos, who is the former, I'm always going to get it wrong, is Yuri the plus 99 ADCC champ or under 99?
Ooh.
For 2017. I always blank on what weight class he won.
I'm really bad at weight classes also. It's probably the worst pairing as far as co-host goes for knowing what weight class anyone's in.
That's kind of my job usually. I say that's actually that's Josh's job. I'll text Josh probably at least once a week, like ask a question about this guy. He's like, that's this weight class. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it, man.
Especially Josh's like memory for like what match was against who at what weight. It's like, Jesus, dude, how do you remember?
He has the trifecta, which is like match, weight. Actually, no, he knew match, weight, organization.
Oh my
and then
God.
usually, if crazy enough, a lot of matches you can do round. Like it was a quarterfinal. You're like, how do you know that? Like, there's no difference other than like what bracket. Oh, because he remembers the bracket. You're like, why? Like it's just absurd. His memory is just absurd for those sort of things. While you look up that, I'll just kind of give my thoughts on it. Wagner's moving up. Wagner's going to clearly be the smaller guy here. Wagner's historically been a guy at 77, moving up to 88. Now filled out to 88, a lot. We've seen him change his style up a bit. We've seen him really, especially like if you see him versus like John Thor Blank, he was really able to keep Thor down, even though Thor is obviously like the bigger guy, the stronger guy there. He was able to sort of halt a lot of what Thor was looking to put up offensively, which is typically the inversion to the heel hook and he rips your leg off. He was able to deal with that. Some good passing in that match. We've seen Wagner fill into the weight class and start to use his weight. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that as much versus Yuri. I assume we're going to see a lot of takedown work here. Yuri has been pretty inactive in BJJ. He had a fight in 1FC recently that he lost. His grappling looked good, but he looked like he got a little tired, kind of similar to what we saw from Rodolfo. Grappling looked good. The guy was able to weather the storm and just outstrike him, and didn't get submitted, but made the fight very, very hard for him. Fury recently, last week, did BJJ Stars. He got taken out in the first round by, I think, Hulk. Could be wrong about that. This will be the first no-gi match that Yuri has had since ADCC 2019, in which he got injured in the first round. So he's been just really focusing on MMA. We've seen a lot more from Wagner. I'm gonna have a really hard time picking this one because Yuri's the bigger guy, the ADCC title, but he's stepped away from a while. Wagner's the smaller guy, but been super active, highly ranked in the division at 77 and now at 88. There's so many ways that this match can go. What are your thoughts, Austin?
So, just a few corrections before, because I'm looking right at the thing.
I appreciate it.
Talking. So, Yuri won in 2015, apparently.
Did I have that wrong?
Is that correct? Let me see.
If you're looking at the page, I would assume it's correct.
I mean, I'm looking at it, but yeah, he beat Keenan in the finals of 88 at 2015.
It was 88. Okay, it was 88.
Yep, and then in 2017, obviously didn't win.
He's cutting a lot of weight to make 88, though.
Yeah, Felipe Pena, 2-0 at 99.
Okay, so he was 2017
He
champ.
has 2 titles. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. That's in my head. That makes sense.
That's pretty nuts. And I'm looking at some of his wins and losses, and it looks like, because I'm not the biggest Yuri follower. I've watched a lot of his matches, but I'm not our games are so different that I don't pick up a whole lot of technical stuff from him because he's pretty wrestle heavy, I would say. But a lot of his losses look like from the more IBJJF sport-focused guys, Gordon Ryan aside. So, if you look at, his last few losses, if you look at, Hulk beat him 7-0 at BJJ Stars, Keenan beat him in the quarters at ADCC, beat him 3-0. Gordon, the last time that he beat him 0-0 on an absolute final at Nogi Worlds.
That was Nogi Worlds for IBJJF.
Yep, Nogi Worlds IBJJF, and then Gordon fought him twice at that same Nogi Worlds, and he beat him 11-0 in the first match. It's a lot of his losses are not typically submissions. I mean, he's been submitted, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are typically points.
But you're going back a couple of years. You're going back a couple of years to find a submission loss.
To find submission losses, you're going back a couple of years, and it's really high level guys. It's Keenan was the guy who submitted him last.
Yeah.
So, I think he doesn't do great against the purely sport guys. So I really, really like this matchup with Wagner. Not to say he's not a sport guy. I mean, he is also.
Right.
But I think he also has kind of an MMA focused, more combative jiu-jitsu style that I think really, really fits the fight to win rule set better. And then it's going to be interesting because we have this dynamic of the weight class jumping for Hosha. So it'll be really interesting to see how they both kind of deal with the problems. For Wagner, it's going to be the weight and kind of the difference in the wrestling kind of meaner game that kind of pairs well against his versus Yuri, who's going to kind of have problems potentially with some of the more sport side things that Wagner can do.
Yeah. So super fun matchup. Who's your pick on this one?
Fuck, dude. I don't know.
I got nothing. I want to go Wagner.
Yeah, just because I want him to win, but I don't know. I could see both of them having a pretty. I think it's going to be a brutal match. It's either going to be really, and this is going to sound of course it is, but I think it's either going to be really boring or really exciting. There's going to be.
There's not going to be. It's not going to be a middle. There's not a middle ground for this match.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really boring grip fighting where neither one of them wants to concede to take it to the ground or get too crazy with some of their wrestling, or they're both going to be trying to wrestle their balls off, and it's going to be amazing. And
Wagner's just going to be punching him in the face until Fight Through Rule goes, hey, man, you can't punch him in the face like that. And he's going to go, all right, man. And you're just going to go, what the fuck? And they'd be like, all right, man. Yeah, so it'd be a really fun match. I want to lean Wagner just because we've covered Wagner. He's been more active recently. Yuri's moving back into BJJ, obviously with taking the match last week on late replacement, replacing Muhammad Ali in the heavyweight GP for BJJ Stars 5. but he's just been more inactive, and so he's coming off an injury. Now he's been healed. He's competing. I have a lot of questions with Yuri. Definitely has the tools to get it done. Definitely has, the bigger titles, but Wagner has been so active, and he's so familiar with the fight to win rule set, and Yuri has fight to win matches as well, but Wagner's just been so active in the last couple of years in BJJ. I just want to give the edge to Wagner just on activity. Again.
Same. I think I would give Wagner the edge, but I think it would be, if there was like something I would like to see Yuri come back and do, it's definitely a fight to win at no-gi against a slightly smaller opponent who also has an MMA base, or more, like I said, more combative than sport base.
Wagner Hoscher's your guy.
This is exactly the matchup I'd want to see Yuri at if he's coming back to compete jiu-jitsu more often.
Yep. So super fun matchup. I got nothing else. That's all the matches that are announced at this time. Should be a banger card. I'm excited for that. And 2 weeks we have Who's Number One. That does it. The outro. What do you got going on this week, Austin?
Oh man, nothing exciting. Working with my mask on, potentially getting the second shot of the vaccine next week. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully that means we can get back to training at some point.
Nice.
That'd be really, really nice.
I would love that. That would be awesome. I'm doing the same thing. Doing PT. I hooked up my Wii, and I've been playing Zelda, Wind Waker. After watching a bunch of GDQ speedruns, I was like, I want to play Wind Waker again. So I unearthed my old game console. So I was like, I want to play Ratchet & Clank too. So that's been my week of just ripping apart and hooking up every retro game. Actually, retro now. It's stuff that I bought when I was a kid. Now I still have hooking up and playing old games on my giant ass TV. I'm like, this actually doesn't upscale well. And having a converter box to go from red, white, and yellow to HDMI. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This is weird.
Dude, I remember how amazing those games looked when I was 11. And I'm like, oh yeah, Zelda Ocarina of Time, that game was great. It's timeless. It's probably great. And then you start playing it and this is the blockiest, trash-looking game. But it's still so fun.
It's still super fun. You get over the graphics, it's still super fun. But that's
graphically, you forget how bad it actually looks.
Yeah, that's been my week of just looking this looks, and then I think it's a draw distance thing, so it looks really weird. It's also wasn't meant to be played on a 65-inch flat screen TV. You're supposed to play on a 32-inch CRT. Game looks great, but
there was no widescreen TV. I remember a widescreen. If you had a widescreen TV that was HD, you were a baller. Oh, you have $5,000 to drop on a TV, dude. Cool.
Now I'm
every other TV is gonna be square and freaking not high def.
Dude, the new TV that I got in my basement 6 months ago or whatever is 55 inches. It was for $360. And it's a nice ass TV. And it's in college, that was an $800 TV if you got the shittiest TV possible. It's this is
probably
crazy.
More, yeah.
Crazy how much the guy in a freshman dorm had a TV that was small, I think a 45-inch TV or something
we
that.
Thought that was
50-inch
massive
TV
back then.
And it was massive because we were broke college kids. We were playing Call of Duty 2 on that, and I'm getting back into gaming because Rachel's been gaming a ton recently. I was I want to play games again, but not hard games, but single player games by myself.
Relaxing, fun stuff without competition element in it, so you don't get obsessive.
So that's been my week, doing PT and biking and starting to run again because I want to look hot for my wedding, which is really what it is. That's really what it is because once we're married, then I can get fat and we're done. But I want to look hot for my wedding, and that's that's it. So,
that's the whole point. Marriage means you can give up. It's great.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited for. So anything else, Austin, you got before we head out?
Oh, no, man. It was great catching up with you and talking about the thing that I love the most to talk about.
It's great. We'll definitely put you in the rotation, get you on more frequently.
For sure.
I got nothing else. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host,
Austin.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. We'll see you on the mats whenever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.